Hello, and thank you for joining me in this video. Now, just hours ago, Rocket Lab released their 2025 Q4 and full year earnings results. I've been invested with Rocket Lab since the very start, and I've never missed one of these. So today we're going to go through everything that they've released, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on this, and we can see overall how good a quarter was this for Rocket Lab. So first of all, but if you are new here, my name is Howard. I'm a retail investor, and I made this channel recently just to basically share my research and build an investing community. And if you're not new here, thank you for joining me again in another video. So first of all, we're going to start off. We'll jump into the stock price. So stock price has been hovering around this kind of $65, $70 mark. And we did drop a bit after the earnings, which I think a lot of people were expecting. And this is most likely because of the Neutron delay. We were around 4% down in the after hours, and that's gone to around 5% in the overnight market. So nothing too unexpected there, to be honest. And we'll see what happens when the market opens later today. So now let's get into the important stuff, which is actually what did Rocket Lab release yesterday. And so we'll start off actually not going to the earnings report, but the huge amount of stuff they released. So these are all of the announcements they officially released on the investors page yesterday. You can see, of course, we've got their fourth quarter and full year 2025 financial results, but we've also got Rocket Lab acquires another company. We've got Rocket Lab completes spacecraft commissioning for NASA escapades, and we've got Rocket Lab introduces advanced silicon solar arrays, and we have Rocket Lab establishes new precision machining complex. A lot of stuff has been released. This is all touched on in the earnings slides, so we're going to go through all of that right now. So let's start off with the financial highlights. So this is largely expected, what we were kind of looking for. Record annual revenue of just over 600 million for the year. Strong annual growth, 38% revenue growth year on year versus 2024. When we're talking about Rocket Lab, we're in a growth company here. We just want to see that top line increasing, in my personal opinion. We're comfortable that the profit will come later, but we want to see them growing that top line, which they are doing and did at 38% last year. It was a record quarter, so 180 million revenue for Q4, and that's up 36% on the previous year. A record backlog at 1.85 billion. That's, of course, helped by that huge SDA contract we got, and a record gross margin. So gross margin in Q4 2025 was 38% on GAAP and 44.3% non-GAAP. We'll get onto the gross margins as well, because I think it's been quite interesting we got a good bit of insight about gross margins across their products for this quarter. Some other business highlights as well, which we're kind of aware of, but 21 launches for Electron, a new biggest ever launch record for Electron this year, 100% mission success, 7 launches in Q4, which was an absolutely incredible quarter. And they signed 30 plus new launches for Electron as well. So they launched a load of Electrons last year, and they signed more Electrons than they even launched. Neutron, we'll get into that in more detail. Space Systems, of course, we've got that prime 800 million SDA contract. And then we've got some acquisitions, which we'll get onto in more detail as well. So first of all, let's get into Electron. Again, what we just mentioned there, 21 launches last year. And Electron has really solidified itself as the winner of this small launch market. There were so many companies that were going over after this small launch business. And one thing that Rocket Lab are key to announce here is 0 new entrants in Western small launch market that we had in this year. And there were no successful orbital launches of a new small rocket in 2025. It seems like the pack really has peeled away. Rocket Lab has won this small launch, and not only have they won it in terms of beating the competitors, but they have made it a hugely profitable business. We're looking at 40% gross margins, I think, now on Electron from what we can put together. So they've not just won, but they are making money doing it as well. This is a hugely successful product that Peter Beck has built. And there's much easier ways to make money if you're going to build your first product. So hats off to him. And now if we're looking at the other companies that are up and coming now, no one's trying to start off with a small launcher. They're all going to medium class rockets, basically because this market is taken. You're not going to get this cadence and be able to make money on it. So fantastic news when it comes to Electron. Then we've also got hypersonic testing. We had 3 HASTE launches last year. We've already got the next one on the pad, which should launch this quarter. That is coming up very soon, hopefully. And we should hopefully see this accelerate. We know we've got a lot of these booked up, and we know that there's a lot of interest in this. We just need to see them kind of accelerate now this year, hopefully. So hopefully we'll beat this record in 2026. And again, a record year for launch contracts like we touched on. We launched 21 last year and we booked 30, which is exactly what we want to see in a growth company. We want to be sending off all those launches, but we want to booking on even more. Diversified customers, they're launching for US, natural, security and defense, commercial constellations, new and returning customers, and international allied governments. Great product. And they also announced a 4 launch deal signed in Q4. So just in Q4, they signed a 4 launch deal for Black Sky. So they are clearly a happy customer, and that's taken their total launches booked up to 17. Signed a launch contract with a new confidential customer with national security. And again, what we spoke about with the launches there. So Electron is flying along, and it looks like it's got more growth to come in the future. Like, what a fantastic product and how well they have done with that. Space systems. So space systems is the area I am really looking at for Rocket Lab at the moment, and they are doing a lot of work on here. They've done some more acquisitions. They've got this huge SDA contract in there as well. And if we're getting on to looking at a Neutron delay, which we have had, which we're going to get to, we need to start looking at where is this growth going to come from in Rocket Lab. This is a fast-growing company, and we need to maintain it. If we're only having 1 Neutron launch this year, we know that kind of the way the cadence go with Neutron, the best case scenario is going to be on the 3rd year they launch 5. That's only going to be $250 million revenue, which is not even half the revenue we're doing this year. So why we wait for, it's not just launching Neutron, but we need that revenue to stack up. We need to be getting revenue in from other sources like Electron and also space systems like this. And so one of the great things about investing in Rocket Lab is they are working on so many things. They have so many products, and just because they're pouring all this money in building a small class or medium class rocket, they've got their foot on the pedal launching or growing space systems and acquiring companies and getting new contracts there as well, which is what I want to see. We know about the SDA contract, so we'll move on from that. Mars mission success, so the Escapade mission, they built these 2 satellites for NASA in record budget and in record time, basically to show, look, this is what we can do when it comes to building very complex spacecraft. Record time, record under budget, and this now has been classed as a success. On time, on budget, deployment, commissioning, trajectory correction maneuvers. So this has been launched. The satellites are now working. They're on their way, and they're getting ready to hand off to UCB next month ahead of beginning science operations. So the satellites there, science operations can begin, and they can kind of hand that over. Mars Telecommunications Orbiter, we spoke about this in my earnings preview. We haven't really had much of an update on this from what we already know, but they've put it in the slide deck again. We didn't see this in the last earnings, but we did see it in the Q2 results. They're still really pushing for this, and we can see it on their X account and their social media as well. They really want this contract, and they're highlighting here this is still a huge opportunity for us, and also why they think they should win it as well. Production ready, they're good to go with all their components and their satellite buses. Mars Relay Pioneers, Mars Focus, they've already sent stuff to Mars and operate stuff on Mars with their solar panels. Proven record of delivery for NASA specifically. We know that. Vertically integrated and deep space experience. They're ticking all the boxes here. So hopefully we get some more updates on this to come. Spacecraft built for NASA on-orbit fueling mission. These are the missions that I'd love for Rocket Lab, because if you want to speak about what an end-to-end space company is, this exemplifies it right here. They have built a satellite, or basically on-orbit technology, to test how you can keep cryogenic fuels and I believe move cryogenic fuels in space. If we're looking at being a spacefaring civilization in the end, we need to hold liquid oxygen, for example, and that is at extremely cold temperatures. So managing that liquid oxygen, for example, is a very complex thing. And this is basically to test how they do that. From what I've seen here, if we go here, on-orbit technology, demonstration of a cryogenic fluid management system for NASA to advance technology. So from what I understand, they're involved in the development of the actual payload of this technology. They have built the satellite bus, which is actually going to host this payload, and they're going to launch it. Not only are they going to launch it, but they're going to launch it on Electron, a very small, compact launcher. And they're doing all of this. Like, this is what end-to-end space is. They're doing the whole thing for NASA in one simple project. And it reminds me of their lunar mission that they did. It's the same kind of thing. They built a lunar spacecraft to go and orbit around or go to the moon, not land on the moon, but to go to the moon. They built it, they run it, and they launched it from Electron at the same time. This is amazing stuff from the company. Again, it's what gets me excited about the the space systems side of the company, we're investing in a company that can do this. This is very, very hard stuff that not a lot of people can do, and that is why customers are going to continue to come to Rocket Lab. Introducing silicon solar arrays. So this was another very interesting one as well. And again, it shows that Rocket Lab just want to always be ahead of the herd and always innovating. So as we know, Rocket Lab already has the world's largest installed production capacity for gallium, arsenide, and germanium-based solar arrays. So essentially, orbit, space-ready solar arrays. They're already the biggest producer of those. Now, in the past, or kind of currently, what these solar arrays are used for, if you're sending a satellite to space, satellites are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Or, for example, Rocket Lab's solar arrays are on the James Webb Telescope, which cost billions. They're also, I believe, on one of the rovers that are on Mars. If you're spending hundreds of millions, billions of dollars on a project, you need your solar arrays, which give energy to that, to be absolutely incredible. Absolutely every tiny bit of energy matters. It cannot fail. It must be perfect. And this is going out there for 5, 10, 15 plus years, maybe even longer than that. So everything needs to be perfect, and that means it's really expensive, but in the whole scheme of things, it's worth doing for giving energy to your spacecraft. However, what's changing now is we're not going from spending $1 billion on one spacecraft or a space telescope that's going to be up there for 20 years. We're going into sending constellations of smaller satellites, launching them cheap, building them cheap, and having hundreds or thousands of them up there, like Amazon Kuiper or Starlink, for example. And also what they've mentioned here is space-based data centers. So to cut a long story short, what they are doing here is building silicon-based solar arrays, which from what I can see, well, they say geopolitical challenges are constraining supply of critical minerals in traditional solar cells. Solar power chains are at risk of failing. The solution is silicon. Enabling meta constellations and national security missions of today, as well as gigawatt-class, kilometer-wide scale space-based data centers. It's basically enable you to create stuff quicker and cheaper, from what I can gather. So they can kind of account for these missions where it's just for satellites that are going to be up there for a few years, or on data centers where we need to make a lot of these and fast. So again, they're innovating in this kind of area before anyone kind of undercuts them and builds new types of solar panels in space. They're already producing this. So I'd imagine their existing ones are still going to be for very high-end spacecraft that are kind of mission critical. And then these are going to be for more of the large batch constellation-based stuff as well, and also data centers. Interesting that they mentioned data centers here. We did have a comment on this from, I believe, the CEO of, I can't remember, I think it's called Stargate, who are planning to launch space-based data centers, and he kind of liked it or gave it a heart or something like that. Don't know if that means they're in partnership, but he might just be liking that they're getting involved with this. I wouldn't take this as they've got a big deal coming up or anything, but I think while the hype at the moment is on space-based data centers, they're using this opportunity to say this is what this product is for mass producing and giving high energy at a good price. Because when we're talking data centers as well, the whole reason you're putting them, or one of the biggest reasons you're doing it, is because the free energy that is available up there from the sun as well. So they're automatically saying, we've got the product for this. Strategic acquisitions. So we did have an update on Mynaric, and in the Q&A session, Peter Beck did say that this is progressing, and he also did say to not believe everything you read online or in the news, and that's probably referring to people talking about this deal possibly not going through. So I think that's a positive update on Mynaric. They're still living in here, they're still talking about it, and Peter Beck seemed pretty confident this is still going through, and to ignore any rumors you might be seeing. Optical Support Inc. So this is a new one that they have just bought in Q1 2026. It's a leader in design and manufacture of custom high-precision optical and optomechanical instruments for NatSec and commercial satellites. This is it says here, a key supplier for Geost. So Geost is a company that they bought towards the end of last year, which does a lot of their sensors, which are very crucial to their national security missions. And he basically said that when we bought Geost, we're looking at the supply chain for anything that could possibly trip us up while we're making these. And then they come to the conclusion that this is such a great, a big, important part of Geost. They bought this company as well. So these are a sub-supplier to Geost. They make the kind of the optical stuff, basically, that Geost then used to make a payload. They've bought that as well to bring even more of it in-house. I really like to see this from Rocket Lab. They have done an amazing job at acquiring companies and scaling them and basically bring them into the Rocket Lab ecosystem. And they're doing this again for a really, really important mission critical company. And again, we've got another acquisition here as well, which is Precision Components Limited. This is a precision machining complex established in New Zealand. So they build lots and lots of complicated stuff at Rocket Lab. Obviously, it looks like they're acquiring for like a machine shop, basically, like that has lots of precision making equipment. It's just, again, going to help them as they're increasingly going to have more customers that need them to build stuff for them. And then we've got Geost, of course. We know that this closed. This was a very, very critical business that they now have under their wing. Leading developer of electro-optical and infrared sensor systems for national security space missions. Established Rocket Lab foothold in the payload market. We already know this is crucial for them getting that big SDA award. So Optical Support Inc. is a big supplier for Geost, and they have now acquired that as well. Now, moving on to another area of space systems, unlocking high-value satellite opportunities. So they're basically mapping out here of all of the kind of satellite stuff that they do provide and how much value they're providing. Again, kind of getting into the end-to-end space company they want. We just get a really good overview of all the products and payloads that they are now providing in space, and also how they kind of deal with them back on the ground as well. Interestingly, I think they have, we've got kind of space protection, intelligence, space domain awareness. We've got this communications area here, interestingly, which they've added in here, but it is pretty empty in terms of what they've got in space. Could that be something coming in terms of communications? We'll wait and see. In the earnings call, they did mention they were actively looking at their RF team, their radio frequency team, to see if they can kind of add to that with an acquisition. So maybe in the future, we'll see this communications area start to get expanded as well. And I go to talk about here, key to Golden Dome, space superiority, ISR, and other future proliferated mission architecture. Owning the payload chain enables discriminating performance, on-time affordability, and delivery for high volume constellations. They're basically saying, we are the end-to-end system here. We've got all of these areas covered. And they're going to keep on adding to it as well. Selected by Missile Defense Agency for SHIELD. So while this isn't a contract, it's basically said that Rocket Lab has been included in this SHIELD. So it's indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity from the MDA, 155 billion shared contract ceiling, up to 151 billion here. And Rocket Lab are now in the pool for possible, to possibly make some products for that, essentially. So hopefully we're seeing some results from that in the future. This could be another little bit of something laid for in the future. We'll get a nice big contract from it. And again, we've got Pete Hegseth recently pictured and touring around Rocket Lab. Amazing to see. This is what we want to see in terms of Peter Beck and Rocket Lab are getting these big constellations, and we want that to continue. Pete Hegseth at Rocket Lab's HQ is not just good showing that they're working together, but it's also get him actually inside there and showing all the fantastic stuff that Rocket Lab is doing, because it sounds like an absolute skunk works magic place in there of all the stuff they're developing. So it'll be good to get him in the building and looking at the people building that firsthand. Now we'll get on to Neutron, which is probably the area that most of us were looking for, and that is probably the main area for the stock movement. And they kind of went straight away and they gave us an overview on the stage 1 tank update. And the good news with this is they were nice and clear. They found what the problem is. It doesn't seem like, although it's causing us a delay, it's not a fatal design flaw, and they're already working on fixing that. Essentially, stage 1 tank ruptured during hydrostatic pressure trial in January after reaching anticipated flight loads. So this wasn't supposed to explode. It wasn't a test tank. This was the flight article. And from what I understand, they pressurized it and they got it to flight pressures. And when they were going slightly over that, like you have to test it in different bounds, that is when the flight tank ruptured. Onto why the investigation identified a manufacturing defect, resulted in a reduction in strength, specifically at a critical joint on the tank. They also go on to say this actual tank was manufactured by a third party using manual hand laying processes, kind of manually laying the fiber basically, and then putting it into a kiln to set it, I believe. They did this because it's basically faster to get the first one on, and it takes a long time to set up their automatic fiber placement AFP machine. So this one was kind of hand laid by a third party. It looks like that was not done correctly, and that is why we have had that failure. When it comes to building rockets, these are always changing. So I think a lot of people are saying, like, why did they have a third party do this? Why wasn't it done with the AFP machine? And I think like any new rocket, like Neutron is going to be changing every single launch. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. It's not like a finished product. Like, there are so many unknowns in here. So this is basically, okay, we've got the design. Let's get this structured. To be honest, Neutron is probably too heavy. It's more heavy than it needs to be. It's not going to be at its final capacity of what it will be able to lift. It's going to have some areas that aren't perfect, but it's basically building a flight article. And so they've built this tank with a third party, but obviously that's not been done properly. They were expecting to use the AFP machine for the second flight article, which has now been moved forward to this first initial flight, and that is in production right away. So that is getting produced right now. You can already see this is the AFP machine. So essentially how this works, rather than having sheets of carbon fiber that you have to overlay and then set, this lays individual strands of carbon fiber, which you then go and set. An interesting thing about this that I've heard as well before, it actually means where you're laying the specific strands of carbon fiber, it means you don't have to, you can control where the strength points are in the carbon fiber, which means you can actually have it a lot lighter. When you're taking a normal weave, it is equally kind of strength in each direction. However, if you're building from scratch, you can put the weaves in a specific area to give more strength depending on where the forces are going to come into that rocket. So this is by far more advanced. It's going to take a little bit longer, but it is kind of more advanced. And this is what the final Neutron will be made with. And also we gave Neutron's first launch is now targeted Q4 2026. So we're not getting the few days delay that we were hoping for. They're now targeting Q4 2026. I think the only concerning thing about that is that Q4 2026, they're now pitching that as their kind of officially released it, is that their best case scenario. So if we slip, we could be slipping into 2027. Hopefully not. We've got to stay positive. We know that making lots of good progress in all the other pieces. So hopefully if we can get a launch off in Q4, that'll be still good in my books. But like I said before, now we've got this delay, we're not going to be getting any revenue from Neutron this year. Definitely the first test launch wouldn't be making any money anyway. And if we look at our cadence, Rocket Lab have stated, or Peter Beck stated, we're looking for 1 launch in the first year, 3 launches in the second year, and 5 launches in the third year, and 10 launches in the fourth year. They've kind of set that out as their plan, and they have been asked, could they accelerate? And they've said, no, that is kind of what it takes to in a new rocket program. So if you're looking at that, we're looking 2027, 3 launches, best case. We're looking 2028, 5 launches, best case. We're looking 2029, 10 launches, best case. So that's the scale that we're looking at for Neutron. So if we take it to 2029 at 50 million ASP, that'll be 500 million of revenue from Neutron coming in 2029. We've already done 600 million in 2025. So even then, Neutron is actually going to be a small part of the revenue of the company if we keep on growing. So, which hopefully we should. So, where is growth going to come in between that? I think it's going to come from all of the great stuff they're doing in space systems and also scaling Electron. But it's good to put into context when we can start having revenue from Neutron. But I think what is most important about Neutron is it's not about getting revenue from launching Neutron. It's about what we're launching up and are we launching our own constellation. So the quicker they can kind of get their own constellation announced, whether it's some sort of partnership and start building and launching that, that's what's going to really be a good kind of what we're looking for in Neutron. Because I don't care about any more Neutron launches getting released or anything like that. I'm assuming Neutron is by far going to already be booked out for years and years and years just because of how long it takes to scale. Amazon, for example, books their Kuiper launches in batches of 10 or 20, I believe. So Amazon could book up, the first 3 years of cadence like that. I don't think launching and getting paid to launch Neutron is the problem. It's about what we're launching and getting a constellation up there as well. I think that's really, really important for the investment narrative of Rocket Lab going forward. We've got some other good developments. So we've run through this on my Neutron videos as well. Hungry Hippo qualified and it's at Launch Complex 3 already. Neutron thrust structure, so this is where the engines are actually going to attach to. This is now qualified as well. They're going to be adding the fluid and avionics integrations to this, and then that will be going to LC3 as well. So everything's going on to LC3, where the whole rocket is going to actually be put together. Interstage qualification underway. We've shown some pictures of this that have, so we've had some really good pictures sent that we've seen on X of people finding this. So this is well under the way for its qualification. I guess they're going to be doing some sort of stress loading and stuff. This is where the stage 2 is actually going to be hung. So we have to make sure that it kind of handles all the right stresses the right way. Launch Complex 3 preparing for stage 2 testing. So we've also touched on this. So this is the launch mount that has recently been was unveiled like a few months ago now. This rig on here is so the whole Neutron rocket sits on top of this. This rig right here sits on top of the launch mount, and that is just for holding a stage 2 so they can static fire the stage 2. So it's a good way of not having to build a separate test stand. You've got where you're launching the Neutron rocket. This rig goes onto it. We can strap the stage 2 in and then static fire that. That will then be removed, and then we can static fire the stage 1 with the 9 Archimedes engines on after that. So that's where we are now, and they're getting prepared for the first thing that sets fire on there is going to be the stage 2. Archimedes engine testing intensifies, so it's not fully qualified yet, but they are talking, they're just progressing on this a lot. We've got some nice bright blue methane MAC diamonds there, and they're basically continuing to test all edge cases. So when you're developing a new rocket like this, it's not just firing it off. They're going to have to test all of the different kind of throttle loads and stuff. So going higher throttle, backing off, introducing cavitation, which is where the flame doesn't come out of the engine bell properly, and also testing for reliability. This is an engine that needs to go over and over again, and not just that, but it needs to light, turn off, and then relight when it's going back through the atmosphere, possibly, but definitely when it's coming into land as well. So they're going through all of those combinations now. And then we get a good significant progress towards launch. We've got pictures of all the different pieces of this now. It's going to be exciting to see this stage 2. The qualification is complete, and it's going to be exciting to see that static fired. And then we've just got the orange one here, which is the new tank, which is currently in production. Now we'll get on to the financial outlook. So we know we've had a fantastic 2025 and a great Q4. What are we looking at for the next quarter ahead? So reviewing of where we are at the moment. So we had fantastic gross margins. So financial year 2025, 39 or 40% and 34%, depending whether it's GAAP or not. And a record revenue just under 180 million. And we also had a record gross margin here as well. So up to 44% on a non-GAAP basis. Trend, again, the trend is definitely our friend here. We're going up every single year, and we've got a gross margin expansion. So not only are we selling more things, but we're making more money on our things as well. Yeah, up to a 40% non-GAAP, really, really good to see. And a review of the backlog. We have a massive change in this. So this is Q3 to Q4. But a big jump in backlog, 1.1 billion up to 1.85 billion. Hopefully we see a 2 billion sometime very, very soon. You see that is dominated by space systems because, of course, that is that SDA contract. And then backlog by customer, again, because of that SDA contract, we're very heavily government at the moment as well, which is no bad thing. They always pay their bills and they pay well. So it's not a bad thing to have a good amount of government contracts in there as well. Also said we expect approximately 37% of our ending Q4 backlog to be recognized within 12 months. So this is their kind of way of saying how much money we can expect to get in the next 12 months. So I mean, if we take 1.85 billion, I'll just do it here quickly. Actually, we can work out what this is. So we got 1.85 billion. 0. That takes us to 680 million. So they're giving us the rough number of, we expect the remaining 63% to be recognized beyond 12 months. So it gives us about 680 million. So that could be what we're looking at we had 600 million for the financial year 2025. What they're saying here is of this backlog, 680 million, sorry, is going to be recognized in the next 12 months. That's not including stuff that gets booked on and gets shipped within the same year. Operating expenses. Let's move on to the 2026 outlook. So revenue outlook, what we're looking at for, the Q1 2026 outlook, we're looking for a revenue range between 185 to 200 million. Expect year-on-year increases in both space systems and launch revenue. So it's a nice jump up. It's not a huge jump up, but I pulled up here, if we just share onto here, this is having a look at our revenue quarter over quarter. So you can see we're taking about, if we were to receive the top end of that estimate from where we are this past quarter, that's going to be an 11% quarter on quarter increase, which is going to take us about up here. And that is pretty much on trend kind of from where we're going. Also interesting to look at Q1, we were down at 122 million. So that is a massive increase in Q1 2026 if we achieve that guidance compared to Q1 2025. So growth for this quarter still looks like good in my opinion. Growing 15 or kind of 10% quarter on quarter is good. And then we've also got beating it year on year will be, that's nice and healthy looking as well. They did give us some gross margins as well. So 35% for GAAP and 40% for non-GAAP. If we take back to what we actually received in this past quarter, you will see that if you look at financial year 2025, we've got 35% and 40%. The targets here are 35% and 40%. So it's actually not going up. I'm not too bothered about that. And it's actually lower than what we've seen in Q4. That is purely just dependent on the mix. We had 7 Electron launches last quarter. That is where I think they're getting these nice high margins from. And the fact that we're going to have less launches in, and I think Adam Spice did mention this as well, we're going to have less launches in Q1, or the revenue is going to be more highly skewed towards space systems. So that's why we're looking at a decrease in gross margins. The amount of products and ways this company makes money, your gross margins are going to fluctuate. We can't expect them to be the same in every product. We're launching rockets, we're building satellites, we're selling individual satellite components. We're also now selling optical systems that we've just got from a new customer. Fluctuations in gross margins are expected, especially when what we're delivering each quarter is lumpy. So that doesn't bother me at all, and I'm confident it will stabilize over time. And then we've also, of course, got the upcoming investor events. I will be listening to these as well. So as long as we get a good update of these, or if we can even get recording these, I always like to listen to every single one of these. So I'm going to be listening to them. And I'll also, of course, be giving you the rundown on that as well. So it's a much longer video than usual this time, but there's a lot of stuff to go over. It's a very, very important one. So I hope you've stuck with me for this long in the video, and I hope you found this useful as well. It's good to just go through these big earnings reports. We get so much information on so many different areas of the business. So I really hope you found this useful. Please do let me know in the comments, like, what are your thoughts on this quarter for Rocket Lab? What your favorite bits in there, and also what are you looking ahead to in this year? I'd really like to know that. So apart from that, thank you for joining me once again, and I will see you in the very next video.